Okay, we are live. I am Alice Keeler, and I have with me one of my heroes, Martin Hawksey. Hey, Martin, how's it going?
Hi, Alice. Great to be here. I have to say you're one of my heroes as well, so the feeling's completely mutual.
So I'm going to share a little story, if that is okay. As many of you know, I code, and I have several add-ons that I have created, and that all started, I think, 9 years ago. And so 9 years ago, I had just began learning Google Apps Script. I know nothing. I am completely self-taught. I Google searched a few things and figured it out. And I don't think I'd been coding for even a year. And Martin reaches out to me. He's like, Alice, I have nominated you to be a Google developer expert. And I'm like, many problems with that. I am not an expert. I barely know how to open up code, let alone do it well enough that I should be a Google developer expert. But he put my name forward, which was very kind. And I remember this so vividly, having this interview with a Googler who's asking me, like, what happens if the time runs out? Because you may not know this, but when you run Google Apps Script, you get 30 minutes on an edu domain. Is it 5 minutes on a Gmail domain, right?
Yeah, 5, 6, if you push
it's
it.
a very short amount of time that the code will run for. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. I couldn't even make a guess. And it was a disaster. And so needless to say, I did not get in. And then a couple years ago now, I think it was, Martin said, Alice, let's try it again. And I did get in, and I'm very, very grateful because the Google developer expert community is just so welcoming. I definitely had so much imposter syndrome. I'm like, I don't deserve to be here. I really still know hardly anything about coding. And everyone's like, Alice, I feel like Norm on Cheers. I'm like, how do people know who I am? They're not educators. Some of them are, but I remembered posting something into the help forum one time, and I was really putting myself out there where I'm proving that I am a fraud. Like, I do not know how to code. Here's a resource I've been putting together. And some people are like, wait, you can do that? And nobody criticized me, even though they easily could have. And just to be so welcoming and to feel like this is a group of people who learn from each other. The Google developer expert community really is a model for welcoming and learning and wanting to interact with others. So I'm really grateful for Martin for bringing me into that. And so for all of you who may enjoy some of my add-ons, let's just say that Martin is a good chunk responsible. So thank you.
Well, I think it's entirely justified. Like you, I'm kind of EDU background, and I wasn't a coder either. I think that adds something nice. It's like we look at things in a different way than someone who's been coding all their lives. I feel we see something.
Yeah, and teachers have unique uses of things that other people just, you can just make something really simple, and because teachers are your audience. So speaking of teachers as your audience, who uses Google Forms more than teachers, honestly?
Yeah.
So I have you here today. Before we lose our audience, we're going to talk about a few things, but we are talking about Google Forms, and we are having this whole mini coding conversation because Martin coded something super cool. And actually, I have to point it this way. Martin coded something super cool that I have been sharing out, and I blogged about it today. And I know you're gonna be like, how is this not a key feature? Like, the fact that it's just not part of Google Forms has to be one of the most mind-boggling things ever. So Martin, how did you think to do this?
Well, I was doing a show similar to this one. We had Christian Schock on it, and there's a whole bit of Google Forms. So there was a new API, so a new way to interact with Google Forms being created and shared. And one of the use cases was you could actually monitor changes in the form. And so I was really interested just because in things like...
This was using Google Drive. This is just from the new Forms API?
So that's where it started, and it turned out to be this long, hideous journey of discovery, which I wrote a very long, potentially quite dull blog post about. So I started off with the new API, discovered it didn't do what I wanted to do, and then I discovered this whole new world of the Google Drive revisions endpoint. So basically, every file you put up in Google Drive, Google keeps a revision note of it. So even if it's not a doc sheet or slides, if you're working with PDFs and you change the version of it.
I'm going to pull up a Google Doc right now, just so we can kind of see what we're talking about. So this is something Martin and I had collaborated on a little bit earlier. Do you want to type something on here so that we're collaborating?
Sure. So
drag your Bitmoji in. I'm a little obsessed with Friendmoji. I need to check if we have that. We could emoji.
This is one of the great things. This is why I got into Workspace originally, was the real-time collaboration.
I remember back in the day when I first was a trainer showing people how to use Google Docs, and every time it's that collective gasp, like, yeah, we're at the same time. No one's impressed by that anymore. But I'll tell you what, I still always get just this little burst of joy every time I'm in the same document as somebody else. Like, someone's joined my document. Oh, wait, me, I joined on my phone. I'm collaborating with myself.
But the big thing is that, you get the collaboration bit, but also you've basically got a shared version and shared versions of the document. So, we have this revisions history. So
now, do you know that you can click here? You see next to where it says help, it says last edit was made seconds ago by Martin H. If you click on that, it takes you to version history. Did you know that?
And there it is. So
Martin knew that, but somebody in this room did not. All right, so I'm going to demonstrate the long and slow way to get there is under the file menu. And under the file menu, you're going to go to version history. Now look at that lovely icon that's right there on version history, because that is going to be significant to us here in just a moment. And I want to see the version history. Now you're going to have this in docs, sheets, and slides. And for me, it is invaluable. I can't tell you how many times a day I click on version history. I can't live without it. So I see version history, and that takes me right in here where I can see the different edits. And you'll notice that there is a tiny arrow here where you can see, apparently I am anonymous user. Hello,
so
is anonymous.
We set this one up quite quickly. So I shared the document with anyone with link in the edit. So Alice
you can see that Martin started it at 3:56. And we had some back and forth edits. Now, back in the day, it would have shown like all the edits as you did them, which was quite nice as a teacher, because when some kid wrote the word penis or something, you'd be able to tell who made that edit when. And I feel like it's been at least 5 years. They have shortened down the intervals for where it captures the edits.
Yeah, there's a lot of consolidation that goes on between the edits now, which I think we'll touch upon. And this is one of the challenges I had.
Definitely a significant piece of information. But so when I'm collaborating with my entire class, so I put 20, 30 students into a Google Slides. I would never put 20, 30 people into a Google Doc at the same time, but I would a spreadsheet, and I have done that. You will see just this large chunk of all the students' names for several minutes before it does it again. So when a student does mess it up, it is a little bit challenging to get back to that exact moment before the kid put the penis in there. But it's still really lovely to have. And I don't know if you know this. I mean, obviously, Martin, you know this. But when you hover over in the version history, you're going to see these 3 dots that show up. And when you click on those, I still feel like this is a new feature, even though it's really been around for at least a couple of years. when you click on the three dots, it allows you to make a copy of that version. Because what I actually do with my documents is I keep reusing the same ones over and over and over again. I do not want copies. I want the same link. So I use the same syllabus every year, the same Google Doc for my syllabus. And I just edit it and say, hey, it's the new school year. And I make my edits. I don't make a new one. But every once in a while, you need to go back to an old version. And so that is where you can three dots, make a copy, and pop it out if you so need to do that. So when I was teaching college classes, sometimes 3 years later, someone's applying for a graduate program and they needed the syllabus from when they took this class years ago. It's so rare. I can say I've probably twice actually made a copy from a version, but it's nice to have.
Yeah. It's a little safety net.
Yeah, but the timestamp's quite lovely. And just being able to know who has interacted with the document, that I've used so many times, especially when I'm having parent conversations and they're telling me that their kid has put all of this effort into whatever it was. You're like, not seeing the evidence of that. Let me take a little look here in the version history. Well, they did it in the hall just before they came into class. So maybe not as much effort as you thought. Okay, so you want to go ahead and switch to your screen. Here's the problem. This is lovely. Yeah. I cannot live without it, but it doesn't exist in
Google Forms. And it seems Google Forms is a strange outpost at times. That Google are doing their own thing in Forms. So yeah, it's not been there, but as I mentioned, information about it, version history of files in Drive, besides docs, sheets, and slides, it is there. You just need some code to surface it. So
it's just mind-boggling. So you're using the Google tools that they make freely available to you, and they just choose not to integrate it in, even though it's part of doc sheets and slides. So that's obviously a problem. Have you ever needed version history in a Google form?
It's useful in some ways to be able to do an audit trail, to just see if someone has made a change to something, without telling you. So with this, we're doing something similar to documents, that we can make a copy of the form at a certain point. So if you've got a version of the form, or a form that you want to reuse it for different things at different times, we can just make a copy of it, and if something goes wrong, you accidentally delete something.
I remember how often something goes wrong, even when I'm not collaborating with anybody. I mean, that's really the major problem, is that Forms is collaborative, but no protection of version history. I remember one time I was writing a blog post in a Google Doc, and I invited someone to make some edits. It was a project we were collaborating on, so she had some ideas. I mean, completely rewrote it with really bad grammar. I mean, it was awful, and she just deleted all of my stuff. For all of our viewers watching, that is rude. If you are collaborating with somebody, you do have the ability in Google Docs to do suggested edits rather than just deleting someone's entire paragraphs all at once. And I thought, wow, that was obnoxious. And then I went into version history, and I put the whole thing back the way that I had it, because I actually liked it the way that it was, because it was my blog post. So cannot do that with Forms, but I have interact with people on Forms, and they just add new questions, or they just delete the question, not understanding what the real ramifications of that are. There is no suggest edits. There isn't any. And so it's a problem when you're collaborating with someone, because they're trying to be helpful. They are, thanks, but I needed it that way, or I need it in this particular order. The other problem, of course, is just myself. I'm not paying attention. I have done this more times. I just don't realize which form I'm editing. I've done that, especially when you have similar forms for multiple classes. And
I've been there.
Come back, and you're like, oh, that was my quiz. it's just
It's when you realize you've made
gut-wrenching.
a change sign and then you've closed the tab.
Yeah. Hey, we have Mark Mozart here who has made a comment. And exactly, if it doesn't exist, you can create it. So for those of you who are watching, you don't have to code because Martin did it. It's all there for you. We had our nerdy chat about how much he and I like to code. But I'm going to just nerdy chat just a little bit again. Is I was looking at your interface and just feeling in awe. I'm like, I can't do that. This is some different features that you put in there that are really beyond my pay grade. So I'm just especially excited. Like, it looks so good.
This is the thing. It took me probably half a day just to work out the Drive Revisions API. I'm just making one call off to Google saying, give me all the revision data you've got on this.
Okay, and when you say
form.
Call, make sure you understand, you did not call Google on the phone. Nobody call. No one takes my call either. I'm like, hey, I can't get this to work. And, it's just through sweat, right?
Yeah, well, I got all the data back. And then I spent days trying to make it look nice. So
it does look nice.
Just grouping things by dates and collapsing things as well. My kind of vision was, whilst Google hadn't created a forms history, revision history, I wanted it to be similar so that if you're familiar with using revision history in documents, that some of the kind of the interface and how you work it would be familiar to you. So but it does have some slight discrepancies. So I think when you were showing the docs,
opinion, I mean, it's nice that it feels familiar to the version history as you would see it in others. But as I made a comment earlier, I feel like this make a copy is still a new feature. When you hide something under a three dots menu, you lose a lot of people noticing it, like a lot. And so I'm really more of a fan of something, when you're coding something and you're trying to create a solution, clarity is better.
I have
people
to say
find your features is my opinion.
Big thanks to Alice as well, who has been brilliant in terms of, so I've done this add-on and a couple of sticky points along the way, some of them small, like making icons look nice, which is one of Alice's wheelhouses. She is brilliant at graphics, but also the user experience. We had a couple of conversations today about how the interface for this works, and you had some great
speaking of, well, I can't call up Google, I can call up Martin. I'm like, and literally within like an hour. Look at that. So I'm excited to show people how this works. Before we dive into showing how the forms history works, what kind of user permissions does this require? Do you collect user data?
No, so this is one of the things that when I was doing that whole journey around the new shiny forms API, there is a way of monitoring changes to forms, but I realized to do that, I was going to have to start collecting user data. And so I didn't want to do that. I want Google to entirely handle the data. So you're entirely working in Google Drive. So I, as a developer, I see nothing. So in terms of permissions, it needs access to Google Drive. Basically, when it's creating a copy of the form, it's using the Google Drive file. Yeah. So and there's some kind of, because it's using a sidebar, it needs permission to do that. So in terms of, I've tried to keep it, as limited as I can in terms of what it's asking to do, and it's entirely built into the add-on. So I don't see.
Yeah, my philosophy is I'd rather poke myself in the eye with a stick than collect user data.
Yeah,
that is a headache no one wants. So the cost of this is
Free.
It's
free.
Yeah, especially for free add-ons. I do not want to collect user data because that is
Yeah.
a lot of paperwork and different things. So this is free. It collects no user data. It is totally safe. And Martin is a very good friend of mine who I completely vouch for. So you should feel safe and confident that you should be able to install this on your school domains. Now, please, I beg you, please give him a 5-star rating. He only has one. I'm number 2 right there. So all you got to do is when you go to the Google Workspace page, you have to click on the 3rd tab that says reviews and then give it 5 stars. Say how amazing he is and he's so generous with his time. It is a pain in the butt, friends, to submit things to Google to get it approved. So he had to go through all of that hassle, and he has had to put up with me sending him suggestions. So no one deserves it. A 5-star review more than Martin. So please do that. Now, to my point, I'd like to point this out. I have 32 million installs on my template tab add-on, and I have like 20 reviews. There's a disjoint here. You can see you have 2,000 installs right now, which hopefully we'll get that up after today. But we only have 1 and now 2 reviews on it. If it's on this 3rd tab, it's out of sight, out of mind, and people have to click on something. So that was what I was trying to point out to you earlier, is it's better to have clarity than to make it mirror, because I know people aren't clicking on those 3 dots. So that's an opinion. That's an opinion. So I just realized that you don't have the ability to switch the StreamYard. So I'm going to do that now. And so now it is on your screen. You have a Google form. So go ahead and tell us how this works and what it is.
So you would start your form as usual, and Alice has kindly shared the links for getting the add-on. So if you're not familiar with add-ons, there's a marketplace where you can install these.
Yeah, can you show the 3 dots and just where it says add-ons on there? Just for those of you who may be unfamiliar, you can just go down to the 3 dots, click add-ons. That is where you're going to find the ability to install them. Now, put history up there in the search. That should do it, right?
I think so, but
yeah. There we go. Number 1. Okay, super for now. So it's really as easy as that. It's just going to the 3 dots. You can go ahead and install it. Collects no user data. Totally safe, and Alice vouches for it.
And then, if you've not used Forms add-ons before, to access your add-ons, they're under this crazy little puzzle piece.
I wish there would be some parity across products.
So here we have Forms history. So, oh no,
it's okay. That's not your add-on. That is all add-ons. Just do a refresh. The worst is when I'm doing some sort of a video tutorial and
there we go.
That's normal, friends. That's normal. And
I should have really not been adding additional features at the last second, but here we go. Yeah, so
recipe for disaster.
We're just going to click open. So as Alice showed at the top of the show with the documents revision, we got a similar sort of thing. So we can see when the last edits were.
So you started it June 28th, which is my brother's birthday.
Happy birthday. And then we can actually expand this out a bit, and we can actually see, so for today, we can see some of the edits. And you'll see a couple of these edits actually have links. So these are edits where I've made a backup copy of the form. So you can see the various.
So this is really a fundamental difference. So the first thing is, like Google Docs, you can see who's even accessed and made any edits. Like Google Docs, it doesn't show you who's viewed it, although Google Docs does have a viewing sort of thing. This is really just based on edits. And Martin and I did a bunch of back and forth edits, and they really didn't show up in that Google Doc. So we really wanted to show that it collapses those together in chunks. So do be aware of that.
So one way around this is part of my journey with the revisions API. had this feature. So in terms of the revisions for forms, the data only has the fact that the form has been edited. You can't go back to a previous version of a form. So Google just don't seem to have that data anywhere.
I would really like to emphasize that, because I promise you will get everyone asking you, including me. I asked you today, why can't you just automatically make the backups? So the thing you have to realize is that as developers, we are limited by what Google allows us to do. So they allow us to access the timestamps. They don't actually capture what it looks like at that moment. That's not part of what is available to us. So we just can't. Like, you can request it, but we can't.
So in terms of making a copy, we can make a copy of the current version. So, and this was a little thing that Alice said, drop the 3 dots, just put the copy button there. And I did that today, and Alice had to redo all of her screenshots. So we can make a copy. So that's just going to open up basically the copy dialog box. So it's automatically just putting in some information about the file, similar to the experience you'd have with docs, sheets, and slides. So it puts a date. I've added a revision number, which I think makes it just a bit easier, because you can then see it.
Know which one's earlier, which one's later version.
Yeah. You can file these anywhere you want. So if you do want to create a folder for your forms backups, you can do that in Drive separately, and then just select it from the list. So I'm just going to put them in my archive.
That's a good. And I like how archive starts with A, so you don't have to scroll.
Exactly. We can even share it with the same people. So the existing editors on the form, or you just might want to create your personal backup, so no one else can mess with it.
Yeah, I have on our outline here just talking about some best practices about this, because let me just emphasize again, it does not automatically create the backups, even though Google Docs, Sheets, and Slides does. The API just does not allow you to do that. So it is a habit that you're going to want to get into, is making this backup version. But what's nice is that when you rename it, it says copy of, or when you make the copy, it says copy of, it puts the date on there, it gives you the revision number. That really helps you to know that it's a backup. Because I know one of the things that I've done when I've made copies is I forget which one is the original, and then I end up messing them all up. Also highly recommend just creating an archive folder or forms archive folders of some sort, because you're not really wanting to use those. I so many times have personally messed up my own form. I'm just not paying attention. I go to get a drink and I come back and I'm like, what am I doing? Oh, I'm editing this. No, that I didn't want to edit that. And it doesn't come back. And so when you have something that it's ready to go out to students or parents or whoever that you're sharing this Google form in, just be in the habit of making that backup copy.
And that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to click the copy button. So in the background, it's making a copy of the current version of the form and just storing it in your Google Drive. And what it also does is it just adds a link in. So just making it a bit easier if you're wanting to.
Yeah, so that third one down is not hyperlinked. And I just want you to tell, like, this is a backup version, the way that it's named. I mean, obviously I could go up to the 3 lines menu and just manually make copies, but this really sets you up to say, this is just a backup. I'm not intending to make a copy per se, is I just want something just in case I mess up, or if, heaven forbid, I have a collaborator. If you've made some significant edits to your form, make sure that you use the form's history, kind of get in the habit of having that open and saying, okay, I've added several things. I'm going to go ahead and do a backup copy. Now, you did not make a backup copy 3 edits ago on the 8 p.m. version. So it's not hyperlinked and it's not coming back. Like, you can't be like, oh, shoot, I wanted that one.
Yeah. So Fortunately, I've got the ones in between those. So, but yeah, as you say, you have to get in this habit. If it's important to you and you want a copy of it,
they're all important.
click
So
the button.
just, if you've typed a lot of things, you don't
Mhm.
want to lose it. It's amazing how many ways I can be stupid. So just use the forms history.
And then, so I'm logged in with another account here.
Hmm.
So just to show the experience, so I can see, so the copy of the
Because
the
you would
revision
tend to
history.
share it with the same editors, then that
So
other.
this one I didn't share with this account. So what's going to happen when I click on the link is I just get
Got it.
I don't have access to it. So it's back into that whole kind of Google Drive experience of if you don't have access to something. The other thing, so what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to be bad. I'm going to delete a question.
Oh, that felt terrible. Now that, yeah, go ahead, and then I'm going to give a caveat.
So if I go back to my original, so my God, I've lost my question. So I can actually open up the forms history and let me try that again. Open up forms history.
It's working.
Open up forms history. There we go.
My life. Friends, it is a slow internet connection. It is not the code. It's the way it is. It'll work. That'll happen to you on any add-ons that you are using. So please always be tenacious.
So I can see we're up to revision 72. So the previous revision was 71. We're up to revision 72, and I can see that my other account.
Martin.
So
Question.
what I can do is the other feature I think a lot of people don't realize in forums is just importing questions.
Oh, holy crap. How did I not think of that? I was
So
to be like, your links are broken. So, when you have to redo it, you got to redistribute out to everybody. You can just import the questions.
So here's my revision 71. I'm going to have you accidentally deleted forums question. I can select all the questions if I want it, and it's back in there. So, and one annoying thing in Google Forms when you delete and restore questions is you might have to do some juggling around if you're analyzing data in Google Sheets. It will put another column in with the same question. So some juggling's around, but
yeah, there's an easy solution for that, my friend. No, it's not. Never mind. It's gonna be like you can connect the sheet and go back, but you would still have the problem that they would be in different columns. Yeah. So when you delete the question, you bring one back in from the other form, even though it looks like the same question, the question ID number is different, and therefore it's going to link to a different column in your spreadsheet. But trust me, this is favorable to losing your form.
Yeah, so it's a bit of the kind of what Google's doing doesn't entirely work for you, but
this is still a huge help, but remembering to just be in the habit. It's going to be like driving a stick shift. What do you call that over in your neck of the woods?
A manual gearbox.
Yeah, manual transmission. So, you're not, it's slow and you can't get anywhere at first. But if you get in the habit, truly, like you say, like this form, I put effort into it. I'm going to use this form's history because I just want to make sure that I have no chance that I will lose my work. Once you've done it several times, it's really easy to do. Although you might have to click on it like 10 times for it to actually load. That's not Martin's fault. That's Google's fault. That's their servers. But it just comes up there really quick and easy on the sidebar. And there's not even a 3 dots menu. All you have
and you can thank Alice for
to point the other way. You have to click on the copy icon.
So yeah, we're now up to revision 73 because I've restored my question back into the forum. So I'm, you
and so you
make
should
another
make
copy
a copy at this point.
Or you might be.
Go ahead, show it again. So make a copy. So now you've restored it, you've put it back. So let's go ahead and make another one to say, this is what this looks like. It's going to pop up. It's going to say that it's a copy. It puts the timestamp on there. Thank you. And then go ahead and put it in your Forms History Archive folder that you have to make yourself. So just but you should make one because you're going to get in the habit of always making these backup copies.
And the thing is, if you move your form copies around in your Google Drive afterwards, it doesn't matter. The links still work.
Good fact.
So
yeah, you can reorganize. So you've got them all floating around my drive. You're like, okay, today I'm going to make finally a Forms History Archive folder. It's no problem to move them.
And so it's now hyperlinked, so we can open that copy. Wherever we put it in Google Drive, we can open it. As long as you've not deleted it.
Okay, well, this is something I'm going to be using a lot, and I know I'm going to come back here. Please, you guys, this is cool. He's put in all this effort. It's free. It collects no user data. Not only do you want to install it for free, but please click on that reviews tab and give him a 5-star review. And then when you're done with that one, go over all my add-ons and give me a 5-star review. Just show some love. Just asking. Martin, thanks for joining. I really appreciate your sharing your talents and your time.
Thank you. It's been brilliant coming on, and Alice, I'm huge fan of your work. So it's an honor to be here.
I can't make Forms History. That is way beyond my capabilities. So I'm just going to use yours, and I hope everyone else will as well. So everybody have a good night, and thank you for joining.
Thanks.